Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the final membership webinar of 2023 from the British Safety Council. My name is David Roberts. I'm the Awards and Events Manager, and I will be introducing today's session. We have a slightly different format today in the sense that we will be featuring a special legal update from Chris Green, who's a partner at Keows. Then we will have a walk through the membership online portal, which has been newly revamped last month, and that will be conducted by Natalie Burns-Spence. We will then have a membership update from Saz, in our Membership Development Manager, and then finally a policy and communications update from Steve Cook, who is Head of Policy and Communications. So without further ado, what I'm going to do now is hand over to Chris Green. Unfortunately, Chris has got issues with his cameras, which we're trying to fix, but you'll be able to see his slides. So without further ado, over to you, Chris, and welcome.
Thanks ever so much. Good morning, everybody. I think during the chat facility, if anybody has any problems hearing, then please do flag that and we'll try and sort out the IT issues. But trust me, it isn't a problem that you can't see me at all. I can't see you, but we'll do as best we can this morning, and I hope you can hear me as we go throughout. I have around about 20 minutes just to bring everybody up to speed on a few cases and a few sentences that you might have heard of, and really just give you a bit of a flavour as to where enforcement is going as regards regulatory law, health, safety, a little bit of environment for people that deal with that as well while we're on the call. At some point, if my camera miraculously recovers, then you might get to see me, but I'm talking from home. I think we're going interactive, but panel, do tell me if that's not right. If anybody has any questions, either anonymously or otherwise as we're going through, please feel free to stop, interrupt or challenge or query anything we're saying. Failing that, we can do that at the end, or I think at some point during the slides. Oh, there it is. My email address is there if there's anything you prefer to share privately. Okay, in true COVID briefing fashion, next slide, please. I don't know whether, Natalie, you're on that. Excellent. Okay, there's my firm, in case anybody don't know the name, Keows, and we are a nationwide practice that deals exclusively with regulatory matters. So we get calls at all times of the day and night to fatalities, serious accidents, road traffic incidents, environmental spills and the like. The team does safety, health, inquests, transport, environment, food and fire, and anything that's got a sort of criminal sanction at the end of it. That's where we come from. A little bit about the team there. So we've got 22 across all of the different offices, of which I think we're up to about 8 partners. And this is defending both corporate entities, organisations and individuals. Now, whenever I present these sort of issues, people are always very keen on how to defend the corporate position, but time and again, we're actually asked more often, could this be me? Could this be a director going to prison? So we've got a couple of recent cases that we'll cover that will help with that as well. And then at the bottom, you see that if that matters to you more than it does to us, there's a legal directory where every so often people say some nice things about us. And there's a nice quote about the team. Coventry is officially my office, so I head the team up in the Midlands or the middle of the country, but really I'm afraid it is travelling as far and wide as need be, and you never know where the next incident is going to crop up. Right, so to bring this right up to speed by way of almost a sort of annual review of where we're at, next slide please. There we are. We try and give as many inside tracks or tips as we possibly can during the course of what limited time I have to go through all of this. But if I tell you that anybody on the call that deals with occupational road risk, fleet or transport or insurance, we have now not only the offence of causing serious injury by careless driving, but this year we've actually got sentencing guidelines. And if anybody is struggling to get the message through to drivers and people who might end up being in one of our cases, if I tell you that there may actually be an obligatory disqualification on the licence and potentially 2 years in prison, depending on the consequences for just careless driving, this has been an absolute game changer, and you see people's faces really pay attention and sit up when you tell them that. But people in your fleet, I'm afraid, they are just one momentary lapse away from potentially 2 years in prison, and we've got a few cases of that nature on at the moment. So don't let them be surprised by that if that's something that falls into your remit. For those of you that deal with environmental cases, pollutions and trade effluent cases seem to be the flavour of the month. You'll have seen that some of the water companies are under the microscope at the moment, and even some of the individuals. And barring that, I have to say that the Environment Agency seem pretty quiet. Certainly don't seem to be prosecuting as many as they used to, but they'll pick and choose the particular case, and they will devote an awful lot of attention to that. And we'll come on to an example of that in a moment as well. Again, I'm only really trying to capture some of the things that have been across my desk and in the caseload over the last year. I've seen a few cases where clients have thought that they would be insured. You can't, of course, insure against any criminal fine. You certainly can't against any term of imprisonment, but you can actually get protection for defence costs, which can be quite extensive, and in some instances even prosecution costs as well. So check that in advance. Make sure that what you're doing actually abides by some of the exclusions and the indemnities, and check some of the notification requirements. But again, just by way of a heads up, you might be covered up to a limit of a number of millions of pounds. It sounds quite a lot, until of course you lose a building and find out that it's not enough. And secondly, just a case that's come through very recently, a lot of people might think that health and safety or environment covers fire safety cases. If I tell you that we're just going through a case at the moment where there is an argument as to whether fire safety prosecutions are covered, then don't fall foul of that and have a look after we've finished on the call. Just as a general trend in terms of how liability is really going and how difficult it is to defend these cases these days, if I tell you that an unlawful killing verdict or determination, as we call it now in inquests, you used to have the criminal standard of proof there, so beyond reasonable doubt, satisfied so that you are sure. A case called Morm has changed that, and we're now only dealing with the civil standard of proof, which is the balance of probabilities, which is a much easier test for any would-be prosecutor or any legal rep for a family at an inquest. So again, the bar is even higher still, I'm afraid, these days when we're defending some of our corporate clients. And then again, just as a bit of a sort of a Chris's freebie tip for the day, you'll know obviously that the building safety rules have changed very recently, and almost under the radar on the website at gov.uk is a Home Office guide for fire safety duty holders, which brings into play all of the changes and tells you what it means for you. And you don't need me to say that in the event of an incident, if either you've never heard of those or never considered those guidelines, then you are rather exposed as regards any prosecution. So if you weren't aware of that, then Google it one lunchtime and see whether there's anything there that you might need to pick up. Next slide, please. Right, this is hot off the press. I think this was 2 weeks ago. I had just come from a 4-week trial in Chester, where I'm delighted to say that my client, an individual manager, was acquitted based on a really interesting and unusual leisure and hospitality public entertainment case. This was a trampoline park, and would you believe that over the course of 7 weeks there were 270 injuries, including some really serious broken backs, 11 of them, and one of them, would you believe, which prompted the local hospital and the local authority to get involved, was actually 3 broken backs on the same day. So what you won't have seen, of course, from any of the publicity that's hit the nationals and the TV channels is any reference at all to the fact that there was another case that the prosecution have lost there. This was under a case that, again, they don't publicised widely, called BOAL, B-O-A-L. If anybody wants the citation, email me, I'll give you the case. But suffice it to say, there are 2 directors who pleaded guilty alongside my client who was acquitted, and they're going to be sentenced in the new year. So Not many of these go as far as the Crown Court trial, but the general message from this is please do not assume, even in spite of the seriousness of the injuries, that these prosecutions are necessarily as set in stone as you might think. So keep an eye on that. One's called Flip Out Chester, and that one, as I say, will be sentenced in the new year. Next slide, please. Right. This is a personal summary based on anecdotal evidence and hearing from people involved in some of these cases. I stress some of the cases that we'll come on to in a moment. Some of them are mine, but not all of them. So I may have got the detail slightly wrong. But if I tell you that the HSE's targets for fatal and non-fatal investigations, they publish their annual report, and it looks as if they're perhaps getting back on track with the targets that they've set themselves. But what does that mean? If you actually don't include a case as part of the stats from the outset, then logically you're far more likely to meet the target. What does that mean in practice? They're far more selective really early on, even from the moment that they pick the RIDDOR form up, and it might be that they don't actually pay much or any attention to some really serious cases. I think personally, I may do them a disservice, but I think perhaps the focus has been more on the post-Grenfell work and the establishment of the building safety regulator. They don't have an unlimited pot of resource, and the enforcement side of things has been quieter than it certainly has been over the last few years. The number of inspectors has been dropping, and that's actually led to the know-how and the experience and the skill set dropping, understandably, and their focus has changed because if you read through some of their documentation now, it isn't just the workplace accidents, it's actually property as well. And for a few years on seminars like this, we've been saying that the focus is now occupational health and the disease-related incidents, which are much, much higher up the HSE's priority than ever they were before. So the upshot, some RIDDORs on cases that I've had, so fatalities, serious head injuries, fires, forklift trucks, workplace transport. I can think of a few more where a few years ago you'd been saying right to the client from the outset, well, this looks like an almost cast iron certain prosecution. If I tell you that the HSE sometimes are not even responding to the RIDDOR report, then that gives you a bit of a flavour as to where we're at the moment. And even where there are fatalities, I've seen this on a couple of cases, because they've got to process these cases quicker and meet their targets, which is a good thing for the defendant, I hasten to add. They're perhaps less searching and a lot narrower in the scope of their inquiry, so they deal with the accident that's led to the fatality and not go walkabout and serve a few notices on unrelated matters as they would have done in the past. It is really interesting to go through this report. I know you get a minute, but they need to be generating income from their for their existence, and to do that they serve notices of contravention and charge you I think we're up to about 160 quid an hour, so please expect a few more of those notices, even if you don't get too many prosecutions. So in headline terms, even though there are more deaths, but it's broadly the same as it has been for the last few years, actually that's been associated with fewer criminal prosecutions. But I would say this as a defence lawyer, wouldn't I? It's a good thing that the conviction rate is down, but only just. The figures are still well into the 90s, so you have been warned. Next slide, please. But against that, if we're adopting standard risk assessment principles, consequence times likelihood, I'm afraid if the likelihood of getting prosecuted is down, the consequences are very much up. So if you are the individual company or director or manager who is in the spotlight, I'm afraid the penalties, if it does go the distance, are much higher than ever they were before. So some headlines there in England and Wales anyway, 2 new record fines recorded. Scotland had a case years ago, which was a 15 million, but we now have a 10 and a 14 million arising out of the Croydon tram crash. And prior to that, the figure had gone up as well. So this is definitely a trend we are seeing. and you won't be at all surprised as you read in a lot of the British safety magazines and such like that the figures are well into the millions and are rising. What we've also seen that associated with is several directors being prosecuted and convicted, and if time allows, I'll tell you about an environmental case that I attended recently, where a co-accused was given an immediate term of imprisonment. We're seeing a few more of those in the safety space as well. And again, elephant in the room time, there is very little guidance as to what a quote very large organization looks like and is represented by turnover wise, but you sort of know it when you see it. And where you see some rather large well-known companies being sentenced, it may well be that however bad it feels at the moment, just around the corner we may end up having even higher categories of sentencing when they get it wrong. So summarising all of that then, likelihood of it going the distance less, but risks if you do are higher. So roughly then we're in broadly the same place as we were. The risk level to you and your board is pretty much same as it ever was. Next slide, please. Right, I'll race through because time doesn't permit, but you've probably seen these cases have a real history. In 2022, we finally had the, 23, we finally had the Birmingham wall collapse case sentenced and convicted. You saw there that 2 directors got an immediate term of imprisonment after 5 deaths. The Croydon tram crash, sentencing had been delayed on that for a number of years while they awaited a trial of the driver, who was then acquitted. Network Rail, given the size and the scale of their organisation, you won't be at all surprised to hear that once in a blue moon they'll have the odd issue. And what we would also flag there is the fine will always reflect that. One case there that I can headline to you is the University of Dundee and Chakraborty. Everyone on the call will know that the only way when you're investigating an accident to ensure that your findings and your thought process and your opinions are confidential is to do it under legal privilege. So that's usually where I come in. You phone your lawyer and it's all confidential. Please be mindful of this University of Dundee case, because if you start a case where it isn't privileged, this broadly suggests that you can't retrospectively suggest that it was privileged. And the action, I'm afraid, that arises from that is right from the outset, you have to be assuming that it is going to be privileged, because you can't then apply confidentiality after you've already started an accident investigation. Be careful of that one. I have seen people trip up on legal privilege. Next slide, please. And a few samples just from one sector there where we're seeing various in agriculture, for example, which is statistically one of the biggest killers. Don't expect any change or discretion from the regulators. Similarly, if you're in construction or in the waste industry. So these are in just to demonstrate that the most sort of routine machinery type incident these days can be attracting close up to £1 million even for some of the smaller operators. So you have been warned. That's a trend that's been coming, and we can see that increasingly in some of the judgments that we're seeing as far as sentences go. Next slide, please. Right, this is one I need to flag to you. A case called Evergreen Construction earlier on this year. Imagine you are unfortunate enough that you ever have to defend one of these cases in court, and the allegation, of course, relates to the incident in question, the one that's before the court. Evergreen Construction suggests that a prosecutor can actually go far, far further back, and that's what they did in this case. They actually wanted to suggest that the company was guilty of this offence because it's got a propensity to commit safety offences previously. So the prosecutor dug out previous notices of contravention, improvement notices, and I think there was a previous accident that hadn't been pursued. But the point being, it's trying to undermine the safety record of the company in front of the court. Now you'll see from that third bullet point there you may or may not come across notices of contravention, which people often decide to just pay, even if they think they've got a defence to it. Well, if you've got any allegation where we've got previous evidence of convictions, that's all admissible now. So I think if we say next slide, there's another bullet on that slide. This went to the Court of Appeal, and there is the answer. Previous enforcement notices and previous accidents can be admissible as evidence of bad character. So in effect, whenever you get something where nobody dies or it doesn't go any further, please just bear in mind there's a much bigger picture there, and those incidents can be used many years into the future as evidence if ever you have a repeat. So what does that mean in practice? Challenge them. You work really hard to ensure that you keep your good record. Don't just assume that these are fixed penalties. They're not. They will be really important if and when there is ever a repeat incident in the future. Next slide, please. So there it is. It's not just a fixed penalty, and any previous conduct can be held to be bad character, and even a single incident can establish this. So any suggestion of previous incidents is clearly relevant to this sort of overall safety culture of the individual company. We do a lot in the sort of behavioural safety space and trying to establish where the business is cultural wise. Well, that's going to be quite helpful there if ever you need to refute the idea that you've got form for this, you've got a propensity not to follow the law. So don't just accept them and pay them off because it's easier. There's a much bigger picture behind any notice, even of that nature. I can see myself now, so I don't know whether that means you can see me or whether that's a good thing. But yes, if we can go to the next slide, then we're nearly coming to the end. Morrisons, did anybody see this? This is the supermarket chain who, to their credit, had undertaken really extensive measures to ensure the safety of a poor chap who had epileptic episodes in store and out of store. They'd moved him so that he worked downstairs, but sadly there were points during the day where he started to go upstairs. Tragically, this individual young lad then suffered a seizure on the stairs, fell down and was very badly injured and died. Now, even though his main work was now downstairs because he had to go up to the locker for his phone and for his cigarettes, and I think he perhaps had to eat in the canteen upstairs, that was all the prosecution needed to establish in order to secure Morrison's conviction and a £3.5 million fine. So I think the message for me is twofold from that case. Number one, it's a really high bar to establish taking reasonably practicable steps. But I think the second point, I've had a few clients ask about all of this, is it's actually raised the issue of subjective needs of particular individual employees, and what that's actually meant in a couple of cases is redrafting and creating from scratch an epilepsy policy, but more widely, talk to your HR colleagues about reasonable adjustments. There's bound to be a whole host of people in your business where there is a reasonable adjustment to make it more comfortable or more HR friendly. But have you actually asked them whether there is a safety risk there as well? Because when we asked that question after this case, we found there was the classic case of don't know what you don't know. So an interesting case. I hear that might be on appeal, but the principles, I think, apply more widely in any event. Next slide, please. And this one I can't name because it's a client of mine, but if I tell you on the theme of director liability, this was an environmental health officer who closed a premises having found on a routine inspection various breaches of food safety regulations, and cutting a long story short, the director and the owner, the major shareholder, ended up being prosecuted. Well, we had a curious procedure called an application to dismiss. So we went in front of the Crown Court judge and said, this can't even be left to a jury. There is literally no evidence other than him being a director to suggest that he's got any involvement in the circumstances that led to you finding the premises as they were. there, and I'm thrilled to say that the Crown Court judge agreed with that. So it's not even establishing what we call a case to answer, and it was thrown out beforehand. It isn't enough just to say he should have known about those circumstances. He actually didn't, and they had a structure in place whereby the real authority was with area managers and even people down to the site level. So a really long-winded case, I'm afraid an expensive one, but suffice it to say is the charge was dismissed, and we're now going for costs against the relevant local authority. So again, the message really is don't assume, particularly where it's individuals, don't assume that you're just liable because of the position that you hold or that you should be. Those cases are won and lost really by how you respond to them afterwards, and whose involvement is provable on the file. Next slide, please, because I'm probably running over and cutting into the other times. So there are the takeaways. Again, we've had a whistle-stop tour through all of this. You must have a look at previous incidents, anything on audits, any previous improvement notices, really root cause analysis or analyse them, get to the bottom of them and make sure they are closed out. The ones that really cause some nervousness when it comes across my desk are those where you've got a previous warning, which is a really serious aggravating feature. The accident triangle, if you've actually really gone to town on what could happen from accidents, then you're pretty well placed as regards liability going forward. Take control before you discipline employees and before you admit fault. So going back to our Evergreen case, one of the factors that was thrown at the company was that by changing its procedures after one of those earlier incidents, that's admitting that it was at fault and liable in the first place. So again, I would never want to get in the way of change or improvement or safety features, but there is a liability aspect there and a defensibility point. So you could probably do with thinking that through and taking some advice before you actually just decide to change things going forward. Check your policies in advance, get your broker on board or have a look through. Ask yourself what would happen if an inspector rang or if you had an incident, and make sure that you are ready and equipped and prepared to get your directors some really early advice just in case you ever have an incident of this nature. Often we'll see that they're dead keen to get involved for a number of reasons, that there might come a point where they might be better off not doing that. Okay, I think that's me almost done. Natalie, there we are. Right, okay, this isn't a sales pitch, time doesn't permit, but heaven forbid if ever you do have one of these, then there's the call, but I wouldn't be at all offended if you never want to see me again. Those are the details. Please do put it on speed dial. Don't guarantee I'll open it if it ever happens, but we do have an app where somebody will, if ever that's of interest. And then I think you won't be at all surprised to hear that a lawyer always finishes with a disclaimer. So Natalie, I think my last slide is that. Excellent. Okay. I've gone through, I hope, a fair bit in a short space of time. I hope that's of interest. So good to see you, or I hope you've found it beneficial. Any queries at all, then please do come back to me.
Thanks ever so much, Chris. Some expert guidance for us on a Monday morning. And we haven't actually had any questions for you. So there's two ways to take that, Chris. Either you were so comprehensive that you covered everything that anybody could possibly want to know, or it's Monday morning and people are a little bit slow. Maybe it's a combination of the two.
Well, they're so well managed, they don't have any questions at all, which is perfect. That's what we want to achieve. So let's hope it's that.
Brilliant. Okay, I'm now going to pass over to my colleague in the marketing department, Natalie Burns-Spence, who's the marketing manager. She's going to give the members a website platform update. So over to you, Natalie.
Good morning, everybody. I'm hoping that you can see my screen now. If someone can give me a thumbs up in the chat just to be sure. Just double check that. Yeah, perfect. Right, well, as David just introduced, I'm Natalie. I'm from the marketing team at British Safety Council, and I'm delighted to welcome you all here this morning. I am very pleased to say that our new website launched just 2 weeks ago. We've been busy working on it for some months now, and we are hoping that the new member area is exactly what you need. We are hoping that you have a bit of a kind of easier route to all of your downloads, your resources, information on your benefits, benefits, portals taking you through to ProNRI services and also Safety Management Magazine. And I will just give you a very brief little run through now. I'm just going to share in the chat for your future reference the link which takes you directly to the page. And then I will give you a whistle-stop tour of how you access your benefits. So if you navigate to our website, the same website we've always been, so britsafe.org, and just go to this top section here where it says profile and account. Now, I'm already logged in. If you haven't logged in the next couple of weeks, when you log into your account, you will need to update your password. This is just security around the new website. And once you log in as a member, you should automatically be brought through to this page, which welcomes you to your British Safety Council membership. So what we have on this initial page is a little roundup of some of your favourite benefits here, and you can click through on these little button links, or some of them are general links up here at the top, to take you to the most popular areas of the member resource hub. Or there's a range of tabs on the left hand side here where you can also click on different areas and access your benefits. So for example, in downloads currently we have membership logos, so there's a selection there you might want to choose, so you could display your British Safety Council membership logo in your marketing materials or on your website. We also have the very latest membership brochure here, which you can download so you can catch up on the breadth of your resources. On the next tab down, we have 100 free learning places. So these are available to every member. You're entitled to 100 per year across a number of different areas. You can apply for these either by completing the form or contacting the membership team at the email address here. These then get just added automatically onto your British Safety Council account. You can also access your copy of Safety Management Magazine here. So if you haven't accessed that recently, there's a really handy link here which will take you straight through to the Safety Management page. You can access the whole copy here, or there's highlighted articles here on the left. You also have a little bit of information here about ProNRI services and how you can expand those services should you wish. You access your ProNRI services via purchases and subscriptions, which is lower down on the page. I'll show you that in a second. Tools and templates, there's another brilliant resource available to all our members. There's a number of general use documents here available for you to download, including stress assessments and risk assessments, budget templates. There's also a fantastic range of Being Well Together employer guides, which really help you to improve well-being within your organisation. Those are all available for you to download. We also have the back catalogue of all the British Safety Council guides and posters which we've produced over the last few years. 2023 is here. You can download those and read those at your leisure. Posters you can print off and display in your workplace if appropriate, and also our guides. And those go back to 2019 in an archive, especially for you. This is a benefit that we only share with our members. We also have access to the advice module. So if you have the advice module on your account, there's information there for how to contact and make the most of that benefit. And there's also a tab here for sector interest groups. We'll be running a number of these in 2024, and information, top-line information on that will appear here, but you can learn more by clicking here and going to the sector interest group pages. At the bottom here is the account area. So here you're able to change your password, alter account details like company names, details, addresses, etc. You're also able to see an order history of all your past purchases or recent purchases. And lastly, and probably most importantly, your purchases and subscriptions area is here. This is where you can access your training courses. You can go directly through to ProNRI Navigate Safety Lite and access their brilliant information there. And you can also navigate directly to your safety management subscription. I will just show you this link through to ProNRI. So it takes you straight through a single sign-on to their website, so that you're able to catch up on all the latest information and articles there. I'll just show you very briefly again. Safety Management subscription tab here actually takes you directly to the PDF magazine as well, which is a little bit quicker than the previous tab. So you can navigate straight through Safety Management, and in case you've never been on this tab before, just click continue, you also have access to the archive of safety management magazines here. So a fantastic wealth of information, resources, downloadable guides, etc. here for you members on your area. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to pop them into the chat and I can answer them at the end of the session, or any questions you can email them to membership@britsafe.org. And that's me, I think.
Thanks, Natalie. Whistle stop tour of the new features. Fantastic.
I hope I wasn't speaking too quickly.
But obviously, it's there for all members to go and explore now. So I hope Natalie gave you some good pointers on the new features, and I hope you will dive in and have a look at all the new features and benefits of the website. I'm now going to hand over quickly to Saz from our membership development team, who will outline a few more features of our offering to members. So Saz, without further ado, over to you. You're on mute, Saz. Sorry.
I am unmuted. I'm still getting the hang of this. Thank you for this, David, and thank you for this, Nat. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Saz. I am the Membership Development Manager. So during my presentation, I will just give you a rundown of the types of e-learning licenses that every membership account will be entitled to. I will just give you a rundown of the list, how to utilize these licenses, and best way to actually use these courses. So Nat mentioned this before, every membership account, you will receive 100 licenses per year. So how this works is we give you a choice of 15 courses. All 15 of these courses you can see on the screen right now. These courses will be on the website as well. Now, there's a good mix of these courses depending on your industry and the sector that you are in. With the 100 licenses, how it works is you will have a mixed bag of courses that you can assign to your account. So if there is, for example, if there is certain courses that stand out for you, say the fire safety general HSE awareness course, you could either have 10 of each courses, or you could have 50 manual handling, 10 fire safety courses, 40 fire warden at work course, and that would be your 100 licenses, and you could use it throughout the year. The full list of these courses will be on your membership account anyway, so you can always keep tabs on the number of courses that you have remaining, as well as the number of licenses. If you go to the next slide, please. This has slightly changed. Apologies, this was from the old website. What Nat mentioned earlier, on your membership account, when you log in, once you click on the e-learning portal, you can see a button called Purchases and Subscription. Once you click on the Purchases and Subscription, you will see something called the Learning Zone, and that Learning Zone is your e-learning hub, your e-learning portal, and it will take you straight to that link. Just this format has changed, but what Natalie showed you earlier is how you can access this page. If you go to the next slide, please. Now, once you click on the Learning Zone, it will take you to the platform. This is what the actual platform will look like. It is designed to make things as simple and as effective as possible. On the catalogs area, you can see all the 15 courses that I mentioned. If there is certain ones that stands out for yourself, you can always click on the add filter to see the full list, or you can click on the certain course that you are looking at for in particular. If you go to the next slide, please. So once in the membership area, on your login details, you have to assign the courses to your account. So at the start, if there's only, say, 10 courses that you want, you can just add, say, 10 general HSE awareness course. It will be added onto your account. Now, to actually assign these courses to your employees, there's two ways that you can do this. You can either do this by individual or by group. So with your employees' details, you can just add their basic details, such as their first name, surname, email address, add it to the system, and they will be on the Learning Zone. You don't have to send them multiple login details. The system will do that automatically. or if there's a certain number of courses that you want to be sent to a group of individuals, you can just add the details on the right hand side, click on Save Changes, and their details will be added onto the learning zone. If you go to the next slide, please. Now, at this stage, you should have the courses on your account, the employees on the system. Now, the final step is just really assign these courses. Now, if you click on My Users and Course Access, this is how you will actually send them a link to the course. All the details will be on the bottom hand side of the course access page. So on the right, you can't see it fully at the moment, but if you just click on the selected, if you just click on the selected section with the names and courses, and if you scroll right down, there should be a section called Export, where you can actually assign these courses to your employees, but all the details will be on here. So the number of licenses, the employees details, you just have to click on the select, scroll down, and just confirm. And once you click on the confirm, your employees would receive a link upon completion. So if you go to the next slide, please. This is the email address this is the email that your employees would receive. Is an automatic link. Your employees will receive a detail such as the actual link to the e-learning course, a username and password. So you don't have to do this manually. The system will automatically do this for you, or your employees will receive a simple link like this. They just need to click on the link, add that username and password that was generated, and it will take them to the process of the e-learning licenses. If you go to the next slide, please. From your side, from every HSE site manager or the managers within your organization, if you want to keep tabs, or if your colleagues want to keep tabs on who has completed the course, who hasn't, there's a useful little report system on the page. Under reports and performance report, you can always filter out at the bottom if the course has been sent, if it has been opened, if it has been completed. Most of these courses, your employees will receive an automatic certificate upon completion. So you can see the full list here. You can even add further filters, such as, if you send 40 DSE courses, you want to see who has actually opened the link, completed it. You can always see on this platform here. If they haven't, you can always chase up internally. There will be further reminders automatically as well. But this is a nice little tab to have. If you go to the next slide, please. Just an example of one of the courses. This is the DSE course. Most of these courses take roughly around 20 to 25 minutes to complete. You cannot fail. We fully encourage your employees to pass. The whole purpose of these courses is really to educate your employees. With the DSE course right now, there's an introductional video, step-by-step guides, as well as a mini assessment. There's a certain number of questions that you need to answer correctly, or your employees do. If it is incorrect, it will take you to go back, look at the context there in order to complete the course. Once they have completed the course, they would receive an automatic certificate that they can download as a PDF. If you go to the next slide, please. Another example is the general HSE awareness course. With this one, it will just give you a brief overview of the course, the different the outcomes, the whole purpose of these courses, the different stages, as well as the mini assessment at the end. If you go to the next slide, please. I believe that's it from myself. That is all from myself. If you have any questions regarding the Learning Zone, just please email membership@britsafe.org. There is a user guide of the Learning Zone as well, but I hope this was useful, and I will pass you over to Stephen. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Saz, and hello everyone. I'm Stephen, I'm Head of Policy and Communications at British Safety Council, and very good to meet you all here, even if it's only virtually, and I hope you've found this webinar useful so far. I'm going to give you a very quick, because I'm conscious I think we're almost out of time, but I'll take a couple of minutes to give you a really quick overview of our latest activity around communications, campaigns and publications. So if we can move to the next slide, please. So this is some of the team that I lead, at least the team responsible for safety management there, Tom, Belinda in the UK and Orchi in India. Actually, since we did this webinar last in September, I've brought 2 more people into my team. One is looking after our policy and campaigns side, and the other is our media relations manager. And both of them are working with me, obviously, on our policy campaigns and what we do in the media. But as you've heard earlier from Natalie and seen in the Members Hub, safety management is very much part of the member benefits. So I hope you enjoy it. And if you've got any questions on it or want to contribute anything to the magazine, please do email us and email me directly if you wish. As the guides are also produced by my team, and you've seen those. And we also include a poster in our email that goes out on a monthly basis to members. So do make use of them, do check them out, and hopefully you'll find them useful and interesting. And they go out in an email newsletter, as I say. Equally, we send a policy newsletter out as well every month, which is a roundup of latest news developments and other things that we're saying and also we think are useful for you guys to know about out there. 2 campaigns to mention. Keep Thriving is our wellbeing campaign, and Time to Breathe is a campaign on air pollution, which I'll come on to in a moment. So quickly on to the next slide, please. So Keep Thriving, as I mentioned, it's a campaign around wellbeing, and you can sign up, you can support it, you can receive an e-newsletter as well with best practice around wellbeing in work, and it's in and out of work actually that we're focusing on helping employers really to do more to support their staff, and particularly to develop a strategy around wellbeing, working with very much our colleagues as well who deliver the Being Well Together programme in British Safety Council. So have a look on our website. There's a form you can use. If you can move to the next slide, please. As well as all the information about the campaign as well. We have also, as part of this campaign, been running some charitable activity and free workshops. They happened at the end of last year and into the beginning of this year, and they were a free 3-hour workshop to SMEs. We ran 20 of them. We had 123 people coming, and they got to help around developing a wellbeing strategy. They could also apply for some funding, a funding award of up to £10,000 to help them implement that strategy. And if we move to the next slide, please. These are the figures from who came, how many people applied, and so on. If you can move to the next slide, anyone with up to 500 staff could attend. We've had so far 3 funding awards made to organisations. One is called Safe and Sound, and they're in Derby on the top left, and they're a charity, a children's charity. And the other in the middle is called Team Oasis. They're based in Liverpool, also a children's charity actually, doing slightly different work, but very much in their community. And the final one, Hands HQ on the right, is an SME in London and based in Old Street, and they're a software company working in health and safety actually, particularly in construction and engineering. So the next one actually of these is to be announced next week. So keep your eyes peeled. Another organisation, and then one final one in December. What we're also going to do very shortly is open up to applications from small, medium-sized and micro organisations up to 500 staff for a series of face-to-face workshops next year from January, 1 a month, all around the UK. So please do keep your eyes peeled. It'll be on our social channels, and we'll include that in our newsletters as well. And if you're an SME, you're very welcome to apply. If we can move to the next slide. This is our Time to Breathe campaign, and as I mentioned, it's around air pollution. It's another campaign that we run, and it's about the risks of air pollution to people who work outdoors. It's been around a bit longer than Keep Thriving, but it's certainly something we're still active on, and we work with other organisations, Asthma along the UK, the Clean Air Fund, Global Action Plan, and a range of others out there who are also engaged on air pollution. But from our point of view, it's about what employers can do, what workers need to know and how people can help to protect themselves, but also what policy we need to improve air quality so that people don't have to breathe toxic air just because they work outside. So all of these things are part of our sort of service to you as members. We want to represent you as our members. And if you've got anything you're particularly keen to share or talk about, particularly case studies and work you do in any of these areas, wellbeing, air pollution, health and safety, and so on, do let me know. And I will also make sure my team are aware, and we can help to publicize and promote those with you as well, if we can. So I think that was as quick as I can be. I will ask if we can move to the last slide, and I'll hand back to David. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Steve. And thank you all for attending today. Thanks, Saz, also. I didn't get to interject between you and Steve because we were a bit conscious of time and conscious that we have overrun a little bit. Apologies for that, but there was an awful lot to pack into today's session, as you've seen. And this is the last BSC membership webinar of 2023. So we look forward to welcoming you back in 2024, where we will be featuring a more enhanced format for these particular webinars, which we've been working on. In between now and then, I hope you all have a healthy and safe end to 2023, and we'll see you on the other side in 2024. Thank you very much.